Hi Year 5. Well, here we are again with our first art lesson after half term. I hope you had a brilliant half term and you are ready to do some art. So this half term we're going to be focusing on painting. We're going to be looking at an exciting style of painting called Fauvism. First of all, if you're at school, we need to create a title in our books, our sketchbooks, that says both of these words, painting and Fauvism. As usual, you can make your titles look beautiful, but you need to use either the top, the bottom, or the two sides of your page, not the middle of your page, because we're going to use that for some drawing. If you're at home, if you want to do this on the piece of paper that you're using, you may have got a piece of paper that you picked up in an arts pack this week, or otherwise hopefully you will have some paper at home. It doesn't matter what kind of paper you use, although it would be excellent if it is cartridge paper. The thicker the paper you can get hold of, the better. Okay, so now that we've created our title, let's find out about what Fauvism is all about. And we're going to have to look at quite a few pictures because this is our first lesson, just to get us a little bit to grips with what this strange style is called Fauvism before we start our own work. So if you're at school, I want you to have a look at the big sheets that you have with your partners, which have examples of pictures from the founder members of Fauvism on them, Henri Matisse and André Derain. If you're at home at doing this, then I'm going to show you these pictures on the screen. What you need to do is, if you're at school, please annotate, talk with your partners, talk with the people on your table, think about what you notice about this style of painting, anything you notice, and write it down on your sheet around the pictures. If you're at home, then can you just have a look at the pictures, gather your ideas in your head, and then talk to someone at home about it. We're also going to include some more modern Fauvist painters, a modern artist called Neely Francois and Erin Hansen. So we will have a look and see what this art is like. So this is a portrait of Matisse by Derain. And with a hat, what an imaginative title, by Henri Matisse. Charing Cross Bridge in London by André Derain, that was from 1906. Portrait of Madame Matisse by Henri Matisse. Self-portrait by André Derain. Open Window by Henri Matisse. Drying Sails by André Derain. Notre Dame at the End of the Afternoon by Henri Matisse. I wonder if you've ever been to Paris. If you've ever been to Paris, you might see the Notre Dame. The modern Fauves, we've got Neely Francois with this beautiful portrait. I absolutely love these portraits. And Hansen, a landscape. Neely Francois, I have to admit, these are ones I really like. Hansen again. You can really feel that movement, can't you, in the grass there. Francois. Don't actually know who did this one, but I thought it was a good example. Don't know who did this one, but I love this picture. It reminds me, there's a musician who's actually painted some paintings like this. Unfortunately, his name escapes me, but I think there's a real magical quality to this one. We don't know who did this one. one is by someone called Martina Shapiro. Okay, now that was a lot to look at. So hopefully if you're at school, you will have annotated your sheet, or you can pause the video, teachers, and give children time to annotate their sheet. Okay, so let's discuss it now. If you were at home just thinking about those pictures, hopefully you've got loads of ideas, and hopefully you told mum and dad at home or someone at home what you thought about them. Okay, so let's talk about it. I think we would say, as we looked through those pictures, I'm pretty sure some of you would have really noticed the bright colours. I wonder what other words we could use for bright colours. Maybe vibrant, iridescent even, some of them, very, very bright. I wonder, would we say those colours were natural? They're not, are they? Those portraits that I loved, if I quickly flick back to them, we definitely don't see people, unfortunately, with these kind of colours. I wish we did. Wouldn't it be beautiful? So these colours are not natural, but they are placed in a very effective way because the highlights on these people's faces are still very light, even if they're not natural colours. And the shadows on people's faces are still darker colours, even if they're unnatural colours. But we can say that they are figurative, they are not natural, and they are a little bit, I mean, to use colloquial language, we might say they're a little bit blobby looking, but they're very expressive of the right shape that they should be. We can clearly see what these things are, but they are not painted in natural colours. They are very bright. Let's find out a little bit more about this weird word, Fauvism. Can be called the first 20th century movement in modern art. So if you want to add any more annotations to your sheet, you can carry on. We can say that this is one of the first modern art movements. Started by a group of artists, including Henri Matisse, who called themselves the Fauves, a French phrase meaning wild beasts. Now, that appeals to me straight away. I love this kind of mad, wild element in this painting where they're calling themselves the wild beasts. Let's find out a bit about why they said that. Work and ideas can be characterized in 3 ways. Intense colours to show light and space, just as we said. Colour to describe a mood rather than to show what is literally there. So we said it wasn't the real colours, it's not literal, it's a bit metaphorical, a little bit figurative, and it shows the mood of the person or the place or the picture rather than exactly what is there that we would see with our natural eyes. Placed a great importance on using colour for the personal expression of the artist. So I suppose they'd given themselves license to be free and just express themselves the way they want to. You could say that this form of art is rebellious because the wild Fauves wanted to rebel against the type of art that was prevalent at the time when they were painting because they thought it was boring. The traditional art styles that they were used to, they wanted to break away from that and do it their own way. So let's think about the meaning of rebellious. Rebellious. It usually means fighting against or refusing to obey authority or the expected norm. So if we were rebellious at school, we might get into a bit of trouble, or at home. If you refuse to do what you're told by an authority member like your mum or dad or a teacher, pretty sure it's not going to go too well for you and you're going to end up in trouble. So quite often rebellion can be a bad thing. However, in art, we can say that rebellion can be a good thing because if we want to rebel against the norm, we can change things up. We can express ourselves in a way we want to. We can do it differently. So if we put this word in a sentence, we could say, the intensely vibrant figurative colours in the painting expressed a rebellious passion against the boring and the ordinary. I am all for rebelling against being boring and ordinary. Let's decide to do that. Do you know, there's all kinds of things that we can rebel against in a good way. We can rebel against selfishness and decide to be kind. We could rebel against, well, it's a bit similar, but we could rebel against the way people don't want to help each other, and we can choose to help each other. That's rebelling against the norm, but it's a good form of rebellion. So we're going to do that with our art. Okay, so now that we've thought about Fauvism, we need to have a look through the photographs on your tables if you're at school that you could use as a starting point for your own Fauvist painting. Now then, if you're at home, if you picked up an art pack, there will be inside that art pack some photocopies of the Fauvist paintings that we've already seen, plus some Fauvist style photographs which I took of the local area, which I thought you might want to use as starting points. If you haven't picked up an art pack, then I'm going to show you these pictures on the screen here, so you can pause the video at any time and use one of those pictures as a starting point for observational drawing. We're going to do a line drawing, and we'll talk about that in 1 second. I will just show you these pictures first. Now, again, you could look back and use any of the pictures we've already seen as a starting point for your picture if you want instead, or you can use the ones that are coming up now, or you could just find any picture that you want to do a picture of. We're going to do it in a Fauvist style later, but today our task is to do a line drawing. Okay, so let's have a look at some of these pictures from the local area to help you. This is actually a gate in Nantwich, which I find very beautiful. And part of a gate in Chester. Now this is the river in Chester. Another view of the same river. And again. Boat on the river in Chester. This is a close-up of some branches. That was just a few. Now you might have a photograph of someone at home that you want to use, or it could be literally anything that takes your fancy, as long as the picture is not too complicated that you're going to use as a basis for your drawing. So this is our task. Whichever picture you choose to use to kind of copy or copy a part of for observational drawing, whichever one you choose, you need to create an observational line drawing which we will then use as a basis for our painting, our Fauvist painting later on. Now, when I say line drawing, I just mean we're going to focus on the linear, we're going to do our outlines, because obviously we're going to paint inside later. If you choose to take a good bit of time on your drawing and you want to do some hatching and cross hatching, that's absolutely fine, but you don't have to do that. If you're in school, please do this in your sketchbooks on a full page. If you're at home, then you need to use at least an A4 piece of paper, please. Just let me remind you first. Think about your spacing. So obviously, like we always do with observational drawing, we need to think about how the picture we're looking at fills the page and do some little light lines to help us with our spacing first. Then, as we draw, press lightly, just like we did with our Mayan art, and so that we can rub out. And then when we are happy with our drawing, we can then press a little bit harder. Please leave a good bit of space between your lines and make sure it is enlarged, filling an A4 page. Okay, let's have a look.